Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Today I want to talk about my home, about Uzbekistan. Some 5 or 10 years back, there was no much information about Uzbekistan, especially in English. So if you Google or you want to see in YouTube some videos about Uzbekistan, there was no much information. Nowadays, there are more travel bloggers, travelers exploring Uzbekistan and sharing about history, about culture, about food, and just general information about Uzbekistan. So I want to share it as the person who was born, raised, and lived in most of his life in Uzbekistan. So in my previous videos, I was sharing about my experience in learning Persian language and why did I decide to learn Persian language. And today I want to share about Uzbekistan and just some brief history of the country, the culture, some information about the cities. So let's go. So Uzbekistan is located in the heart of Central Asia. It has five neighbors. In the north, the biggest border with Kazakhstan, another Turkic-speaking country. In the south, Turkmenistan. In the southeastern part with Afghanistan, very short but very important part of the south border. In southeast, we have border with Tajikistan, another very important Central Asian country, because in Central Asia, out of five states, only one is Persian-speaking state, Tajikistan. So other four, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan, they are predominantly Turkic. But Tajik is only one where Tajikistan is only one where Tajik language or Persian language is official language. So majority of people in Tajikistan speak Tajik. So another neighbor country with Uzbekistan is Kyrgyzstan. So Kyrgyz, as I mentioned, is also one of Turkic speaking countries. So generally, Uzbekistan has rich ancient history. Such names as Bukhara, Samarkand, Khiva, they are famous all around the world. Even those who have some little knowledge about history, they heard about these cities. They might not know familiar with the actual history. They might even don't know where the cities are located, but they know that these cities exist. So we will talk about these cities as well and general geography. So Uzbekistan, as I mentioned, has five neighbors and two rivers, very important rivers. In the north, we have Sirdarya River. So especially I was born very close to this river, and the region where I was born is called Sirdarya. So it's this river starts from Kyrgyzstan, then it goes through Uzbekistan in Fergana Valley, and then it enters to Tajikistan, and again it goes to through Uzbekistan, the region where I was born, and the most of the river passes through Kazakhstan, very near to Uzbekistan border. And then final destination of Sirdarya is the Aral Sea, which is unfortunately disappearing. Only 10% of actual size left. In the south, we have another big river called Amudarya. So Amudarya starts from Tajikistan, and then it goes through Uzbekistan, passes big part in Turkmenistan, and then again enters to Uzbekistan, and it used to make southern part of Aral Sea. So two huge rivers, Sirdarya and Amudarya, made Aral Sea. But now there is a big ecological problem with Aral Sea. So these two rivers made the region very rich in terms of agriculture, in terms of importance, because water is the most important resource out of material resources from ancient time. And because of the river, civilization starts. So near to the river, near to the water, cities were built, and when the river changes its flow, the cities and civilization disappear. The most of territory of Uzbekistan is desert. We have big desert called Kızılkum, which means the red sand from Turkic language. And when you travel from Bukhara to Khiva, to Khawarizm, particularly, you pass through the Kızılkum desert. And then we have, of course, mountain area, especially in near to Tashkent region, the capital, in Fergana Valley, the one that, and in the south as well, the borders with Tajikistan. So we have the mountain area. For instance, Bukhara, located in desert, so it's more dry and hot climate. So talking about the climate, of course, climate changes, and when I was a kid, we had very hot summers. So we had the temperature used to be up to 50-55 degrees Celsius. Nowadays, it's a little bit lower, but still very hot. And the problem, it's not that long as it used to be. So the winter before used to be very cold, up to minus 10, 15, even minus 20 sometimes. But now it's hard to say. Sometimes it's snowing in winter, sometimes it's warmer. And one year I remember in 2016 it was so warm that in January the trees start blooming. The spring and autumn is the best time, especially when you want to travel to Uzbekistan. Spring and autumn is the best because the climate is amazing. It's 20-25 degrees, not upper, maybe maximum of 30, but it's quite rare. And in spring, trees blooming, especially the fruit starts. And in autumn, it's very proper autumn, like it should be, yeah, the golden autumn. So when we want to talk about the history of the region Uzbekistan, we should understand that all neighbor countries influence on each other. So actually we are the big family of Central Asia, and 5 biggest ethnicities in this region has been living in this region for ages, for thousands of years. And yes, the state itself, Uzbekistan, is quite modern. It was founded during Soviet time, but the region existed for so long, and the cities, the ancient cities of Bukhara, Samarkand, and Khiva, that's a bit brilliant proof of that great history. So Uzbekistan is a home for a large number of scholars, scientists in many fields, especially in Islamic fields. So, for example, names like Imam al-Bukhari, the author of Sahih al-Bukhari book, which is hadith book, that the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So he was the collector, the author. So he is the most accurate, most found, the author of the most sound book in this science. Another famous scholar in this field is Imam al-Tirmizi. He was born in the south of Uzbekistan. Nowadays it's very close to the border of Afghanistan. But apart from religious Islamic scholars, we had Ibn Sina or Avicenna, who was born also in near to Bukhara. So another one is Al-Biruni. He was born in Khawarizm in the western part of Uzbekistan. And Al-Khwarizmi, of course, the father of algebra, and his name actually became the source of the name of algorithms, because of Al-Khwarizmi. And so on. So many names, so many impact in the world, history in the world, civilization. So, as I'm arranging trips to Uzbekistan since 2013, by arranging, I learned more about my country. I learned about the history, about the cities, about transportation, how to travel in the country. So at that time, when I started working in travel business, there were no much interest to Uzbekistan. It was like some few travelers, tourists would come from Western countries, like from France, from Spain, Italy, and UK, US, very rare. So most of travelers would come from Asia, from Russia. Of course, there were groups from Spain, Italy, and France, but it wasn't so much. So Uzbekistan wasn't very, very famous, popular in the tourism industry, which is good, I think, because tourism as an industry damages history, damages the culture, authenticity. So I'm not very fan of tourism as an industry. I love to share about my country. I love to show it to the people who are really interested in history and culture. And I love to be hospitable, And we are generally the people who are from Uzbekistan, from Central Asia, we are very hospitable. But when it comes for the industry as a tourism, which makes things very fake, I'm not very fan of that. But anyways, so if you plan to travel to Uzbekistan, it's always best way to start from Tashkent, from the capital, because most of the flights, international flights, arrives to Tashkent. And also it's easier to travel from Tashkent to other cities, to Samarkand, to Bukhara, or to the Fergana Valley. There are trains, bullet trains from Tashkent to Samarkand and to Bukhara. So for instance, it takes only 2 hours traveling from Tashkent to Samarkand by train. If you travel by car, it takes 4 hours. And it's not very comfortable traveling by car. it's much more preferable traveling by train. So Samarkand is one of the oldest, the ancient cities in Central Asia, and it used to be capital of different states several times. The most significant period was when Samarkand was a capital of Amir Timur or Tamerlane state. So Samarkand, during his reign and during his son, grandsons, so general 130 years, Samarkand was the capital of that state. The huge empire at the beginning, later on it divided into small parts. So most of the modern historical part of Samarkand belongs to Amir Timur and Tamerlane and Timurid era. The magnificent madrasas, squares, mosques, mausoleums, all normally belongs to 14th and 15th centuries. Samarkand also is very famous for its cuisine, for paper, silk paper that dating to 8th century AD. So it used to be one of the most precious and important product of Samarkand. As you know, that paper at that time was like high tech. So yeah. So normally when I travel with my guests, I take them to that part of Uzbekistan, normally to the silk paper factory, showing them how actually the process of making of this paper, so you can see it by yourself. So from Samarkand, it's very comfortable and easy to travel to Bukhara. Only 1.5, around 2 hours drive by train, and something like 4 hours by car. So Bukhara is another important ancient city in Central Asia, which used to be capital of Bukhara Emirate and Khanate just before that. Just before the Soviet came, like 100 years back, Samarkand, Bukhara was the capital. And even the first time Bukhara was a capital in 9th and 10th centuries. That was the golden age of the city. So at that time, the most of the Islamic heritage made in the period of 9th and 10th century. Of course, later on as well, Bukhara played a great role in Muslim world, but the most important and the highest, the peak, was in 9th and 10th centuries. If Samarkand is more about business, trade, it used to be a very important city from ancient time, from the time when Sogdians played a great role in international trade between China and Iran and Europe at one side, and also they had connections with Turkic states later on. So Samarkand is more about trade and business, and it still continues that tradition. But Bukhara also used to be on that Silk Road and played a significant role in trade, in world trade. But apart from that, the scientific and Islamic role of Bukhara is much higher and much more than the trade one. As I mentioned, Bukhara is located in the desert, so it's surrounded by desert. The climate there is much hotter than Samarkand, especially in the summertime. From Bukhara, it's better to travel to Khiva, to Khawarizm. But that road takes more time, that drive takes more time, so around 7-8 hours normally that takes from Bukhara to Khiva. Khiva used to be capital of Khiva Khanate. It's also one of the most ancient cities in the region. And the Khawarizm region itself is different from other regions, although it has, of course, some similarities. And from ancient time, Khawarizm been a very important part of the Central Asia. And as I mentioned, some very significant scholars like Al-Biruni and Al-Khwarizmi were from this region. So what is interesting nowadays, today, about Khiva? That Khiva is, you can divide the city into two parts, ancient part and more modern part. So the ancient part preserved very well. It's actually the castle which includes mosques, madrasas, palaces, and the most important and most beautiful, that the people still lives in that castle. So they live side by side with the mosques, palaces, and madrasas. That's maybe, I would say, that makes Khiva different from other cities. Although in Bukhara also, the old part is preserved quite well, but it doesn't have such frame as a castle, yeah, which includes all the historical buildings in one place. So I didn't mention about Tashkent, but I have to stop on Tashkent also, because it's not just a modern city and the capital of the Uzbekistan. Although it's the biggest city in Central Asia with a population more than 4 million, Tashkent, being a very modern, as well has ancient part, old part, which preserved well as well. So the importance of the city for Muslims, the old Quran, the Mus'haf of Quran, the copy of Quran from 8th century, from the Osman, they say like Khalifa Osman, but actually it's from a little bit later than Khalifa Osman.